喫茶店あるんじゃない？うん、やると思うけど。そうそうそうそう。俺からしたら多分ただの暇つぶしじゃないかなと思いますけど。
Dear Esther, I sometimes feel as if I've given birth to this island. Somewhere between the longitude and latitude, a split opened up, and it beached remotely here. No matter how hard I correlate, it remains a singularity, an alpha point in my life that refuses all hypothesis. I return each time leaving fresh markers that I hope, in the full glare of my hopelessness, will have blossomed into fresh insight in the interim.
いやだから1個削られたでしょ。俺がいた時にもう削られちゃってる。多分減るだろうね、うちらが離れたって分かったら。後のことは知らないよ。俺は知らないよ。俺は一切言わないから、警察に聞かれても一切知らないって言うんですよ。いやでもあんまり余計なこと言ったらまたあれだから一切言わないけど、いやわかんないですね絶対聞いてくるからさ、間違いない。そうです。なんだかんだとお前絶対そうだ。知らねえのって感じだ。何をすればいいのかさっぱりわからない。塗料が親が散らかってますけど、何なんでしょう。よくわからん。何が？いやだってもうせんちゃん言っちゃってる。でもお前長上がお前今日なんか高橋に言ってることを見ればなんか脅かし的な感じで言ってたらしい。脅かしたような感じで言ってただあいつ。 いやなんかセンチャーのことなんかどうの脅かしい客引きいっぱいいるからねみたいな。
Donnelly reported the legend of the hermit, a holy man who sought solitude in its most pure
大変だよ
form.
みたいな。
Allegedly, he rode here from the mainland in a boat without a bottom, so all the creatures of the sea could rise at night to converse with him. How disappointed he must have been with their chatter. Perhaps now, when all that haunts the ocean is the rubbish dumped from the tankers, he'd find more peace. They say he threw his arms wide in a valley on the south side, and the cliff opened up to provide him shelter. They say he died of fever 116 years later. The shepherds left gifts for him at the mouth of the cave, but Donnelly records they never claimed to have seen him. I have visited the cave and I have left my gifts. Like them, I appear to be an unworthy subject of his solitude.
こんなこと言って脅かしてくるぐらいなんであれば、俺も考えあるぞっての。いや、中上がそうやって喋ってたから、そうやってあれ言ってるよみたいな感じで言ってたから、じゃあ俺もそんなこと言うんだったら俺も考えあるよって。何が？いや、俺が長上に対して言ったんだって。いやだからコウタがそういうふうに言ってたもんだから、じゃあ俺も考えあるよって言ってた。そう、そうやって脅かしてるぐらいなんであれば、だから違うところの知り合いいるから、そうやって出して考えるよっていう話。そうやって脅かしてるぐらいなんだあれば。だからひがみなんだったあのクソガキも。ひがみでもなんでもないっしょだって。ほんとあいつなら。ひがみだけだもん。
At night, you can see the lights sometimes from a passing tanker or trawler. From up on the cliffs, they are mundane. But down here, they fugue into ambiguity. For instance, I cannot readily tell if they belong above or below the
でもあい
waves.
つそれに便乗してた
The
男だから
distinction
ね。
now seems banal. Why not everything and all at once? There's nothing better to do here than indulge in contradictions whilst waiting for the fabric of life to unravel.
あいつが悪いんだよお前。ちゃんとやんねえから。また捕まえるであいつだ、どうせ。ずーっと同じことの繰り返しだから、あの男。何？
Dear Esther,
あれじゃ
I
ない
found myself to be as featureless as this ocean, as shallow and unoccupied as this bay, a listless wreck
あい
without
つは口だけ精
identification.
神だから。
My rocks are these bones, and a careful fence to keep the precipice at bay. Shot through me caves, my forehead a mount. This aerial will transmit into me so. All overexposed, the nervous system, where Donnelly's boots and yours and mine still trample. I will carry a torch for you. I will leave it at the foot of my headstone. You will need it for the tunnels that carry me under. The mount is clearly the focal point of this landscape. It almost appears so well placed as to be artificial. I find myself easily slipping into the delusional state of ascribing purpose, deliberate motive to everything here. Was this island formed during the moment of impact? When we were torn loose from our moorings, and the seatbelts cut motorway lanes into our chests and shoulders, did it first break surface then?
ヘッドホンはないよ。
ない。あればもらおうっていうあれだからなきゃないね。
ないわ。
買うしかないね。
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff path died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
あ、それ更新して必ず。
そうで更新してってるんだけど、更新終わった後になんか使えなくなったとかってわけわかんないけど。
何が使えなくなった？
なんで更新しますにした後さ、更新終わったらさ、普通に閉じてしゃべらんじゃん。
そうだよ。使えねえ女だな。あ？知らないんだろう。さあ。いや、どっちでもいいけど、それは。いや、しませんにしたらどうなんのって言われても、こっち困るけど。多分そうかもよ。自分ででも絶対あの人そういう感じでおかしくしてると思うけどね、絶対に。そうできないから、できない。電源切ったりしてもダメだから。したんじゃないね。強制的に切ることはできるよ。でもそれはやっちゃいけないことだから、それ。更新したらなんかファイルが増える？いや、増えないって。だから何も増えないって。 Windows のその便利ななんかができるかできないかっていうだけだって。
They were
いや、当たり前でしょ。
people, those
だ
shepherds.
って
There was no
携
love
帯
in
の
the
ね、
relationship.
携帯のね、
Donnelly
シ
tells
ス
me
テム
that
だっ
they
て
had
さ、
one
自動
Bible
更
that
新で
was
前
passed
もあっ
around
た
in
でしょ。
strict rotation.
ドコモだって
It was
ソ
stolen
フト
by
バ
a
ンクだって
visiting monk in
au だってあるんだから。
1776,
ま
2
あこ
years
の iPhoneで
before
す
the
らあるん
island
だ
was
から。
abandoned altogether.
え？
In the interim,
いや、
I
今のところ
wonder,
出てないかもしれないけど、
did they
追
assign
い先出
chapter
てく
and
るよ、ま
verse
た。
to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with a superimposed
いやいやいやい
significance
や、
that they could
あ
actually
なたが気づいてないだ
walk
け
the
だって。
Bible and inhabit
自
its
動更新だか
contradictions?
ら。必ずなってるはずだから。ならないわけないもん。いや、触んなくても自動更新でなってるって。
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage.
じゃあしなきゃダメだ
My
よ。
Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of
で更新した
Wolverhampton.
らあと放置
We drank
しておい
coffee
て
in
も
his
らわない
kitchen
と
and
勝手に
tried
電
to
源切られてお
connect
前
to one
ま
another.
た壊れてやったら買わね
Although
え
he
よ
knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he
壊
still
れっからね
spiraled
普通
in
に
panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
そう
I threw my arms wide and the cliff opened out before me, making this rough home.
だって
I transferred my belongings from the bothy on the mount and tried to
おか
live
しく
here
なってないで
instead.
しょなんも
It was cold at night, and the sea lapped at the entrance at high tide. To climb the peak, I must first venture even deeper into the veins of the island, where the signals are blocked altogether. Only then will I understand them, when I stand on the summit
であ
and they
と
flow
更新
into
した
them,
ら
uncorrupted.
再起動するからあとそのまま放置でやればいいんだよ。更新してシャットダウンとかいう形になるからそれはそれでそのまま放置しておいてもらえばいいよ。あと強制的に電源切ったりしたら絶対ダメ。何いやそんなかかんねえよこんなの。いいやだからでもダメだよ。浪費するんだから電源切らないと。なんかのダウンロードしてるとかさっていうんであれば電気つけっぱなしにしなきゃならないけどないんだったら別にお前いらないでしょ。ほらいやだからシャットダ更新してシャットダウンっていう方にしてやってもらえばあといいから。いやいいんだったらそのまま放置で帰るよ。だから更新してシャットダウンでいいから。次の日いやだから更新してシャットダウンにすれば勝手に切れるっちゅうね。いやだからこうやってさこれ今こうやってこれ同じだからさこうやってやるとスリープとシャットダウンってあるんだけど再起動ってね。だけど更新した場合更新になってきてる場合はこれに更新シャットダウンって出るから、そしたらこれを押してもらえばいいんだよ。
更新中には更新シャットダウンって出る。
そうあとは放置で帰ればいいよ。そうあと何もいじらないで。いやだからこれだって
これだよ。
勝手に電源切らないでください。パソコン壊れますから。アホな女だね。知らないものがいじると壊されるわ。新品のものでも壊されるんだよそんなんだったら。
まだここに更新中ですって出てるじゃん。だからこれを押せばいいんでしょ。
そう
これを押したら更新シャットダウンっていう項目が出る。
更新が来てればの話だろ。来てなかったら別にシャットダウンだけでいいからな。
来てなかったらこの項目が出てこない。
だからシャットダウンとスリープとでしか出ないから。あと再起動と。
I've become convinced I am not alone here, even though I'm equally sure it is simply a delusion brought upon by circumstance. I do not, for instance, remember where I found the candles, or why I took it upon myself to light such a strange pathway. Perhaps it is only for those who are bound to follow. Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my ordnance survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
入れないな。
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
さっぱりわからん。
I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk. When I first looked into the shaft, I swear I felt the stones in my stomach shift in recognition. Come back.
Come back? ダメなんだ。あ、なんか取るリミット。よくわかんねえな、これ。なんなんだ、これ。これは見つけたな。
I've begun to climb, away from the sea and towards the center. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore. bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either. Three cormorants seen at dusk. They did not land. This house built of stone, built by a long-dead shepherd. Contents: my camp bed, a stove, a table, chairs, my clothes, my books. The caves that score out the belly of this island, leaving it famished. My limbs and belly famished. This skin, these organs, this failing eyesight. When the battery runs out in my torch, I will descend into the caves and follow only the phosphorescence home.
解釈できてない。気持ち悪いな。マンダムよくわかんないですけど、全然なんかあるのかちょっと探索中です。何もないっぽいね。何もないらしい。こうしたってこれ多分俺が気になったんじゃないかなって思うんだけど。1時。下まで行ってないな。降りるか。気になる。降りれるかな。気がする。
He left his body to the medical school and was duly opened out for a crowd of students 21 days after his passing. The report is included in my edition of his book. The syphilis had torn through his guts like a drunk driver. scrambling his organs like eggs on a plate. But enough definition remained for a cursory examination, and, as I suspected, they found clear evidence of kidney stones. He's likely to have spent the last years of his life in considerable pain. Perhaps this is the root of his laudanum habit. Although its use makes him an unreliable witness, I find myself increasingly drawn into his orbit. Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Papa, voilà.
なんだかよくわかんないよこれ。
たつきだよ。
なんだこう洞窟でしょ。お、初めてだもんな。ろうそくある。なんだこれ。うわ。落ちた。またなんかトロフィー。
From here, this last time, I have understood there is no turning back. The torch is failing along with my resolve. And hear the singing of the sea creatures from the passages above me, and they are promising the return of the gulls.
なんかどっかに降りてきたらしい。
If the caves are my guts, this must be the place where the stones are first formed. The bacteria phosphoresce and rise, singing through the tunnels. Everything here is bound by the rise and fall, like a tide. Perhaps the whole island is actually underwater.
って、この記号は一体何なんだかさっぱりわからないですけど、これは景色を見て楽しむだけのゲームだっていう感じですね、これ。まあグラフィック的にはかなりいいんじゃないかな、これ。質感が伝わるのかなと思いますね、これ。ちょっと穴を見つけたので、ちょっと穴に入りたいと思います。すごいな、これ。いやいやいやいや。赤は何なの？わかります？この細かさ。結構細かいな。八方塞がり。あ、違う違う、この上上がっていくんだ。よくわかんないしね。どうなってるんだ。幻想的な音と、こういうのがなんかあれなのかなっていう、感じですけどね、このゲームは多分。ちょっと慣れてないと目が寄ってきたかなみたいな感じですけど、このトゲトゲしいところはすごいな。チーク、まずこっちかな。
This is a drowned man's face, reflected in the moonlit waters.
いきなりおっさん。
It can only be a dead shepherd who has come to drunk drive you home.
深そうだな。ちょっと入ってみる。 塗料でなんかいたずら書きしてんのかね。さっぱりわかんないですけど、これは何なの？宇宙人？学者さんが書いたのか、どうなのかよくわかんないですけどね、これ。それにしてもなんてゲームなんでしょうか。感じかなこれ。今度水の中潜れんだ。潜って抜けて、なんだこれ。何ここ。主人公の出来事なの。一体何なんだ。何なんだこの車。ここは何？水の中か。もしかして。これどっち行けばいいのこれ。なんかまた違うとこだな。私は死んだのか。またなんか変わった。またトロフィーゲッチュしました。こっち側も行けないんだね。こっち側。どんだけ広いんだここ。あ。ちょっとなんか雑かな。下着だよねこれね。多分服とか衣類とかわかんないけど、紙っぽくなってますねこれね。
wish I could have known Donnelly in this place. We would have had so much to debate. Did he paint these stones or did I? Who left the pots in the hut by the jetty? Who formed the museum under the sea? Who fell silently to his death into the frozen waters? Who erected this godforsaken aerial in the first place? Did this whole island rise to the surface of my stomach, forcing the gulls to take flight? We shall begin to assemble our own version of the North Shore. We will scrawl in dead languages and electrical diagrams and hide them away for future theologians to muse and mumble over. We will send a letter to Esther Donnelly and demand her answer. We will mix the paint with ashes and tarmac and the glow from our infections. We will paint a moon over the Sanford Junction and blue lights falling like stars along the hard shoulder. There were chemical diagrams on the mug he gave me coffee in, sticky at the handle where his hands shook. He worked for a pharmaceutical company with an office based on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. He'd been travelling back from a sales conference in Exeter, forming a strategic vision for the peddling of antacid yogurt to the European market. You could trace the connections with your finger, join the dots, and whole new compounds would be summoned into activity. From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
卵がある。開かないし。で、これはもういけないということね、ここからは。
Come back.
Come back. 死んだのか。あ、なんかまたトロフィー。何なんでしょうこのゲームは。わかんないな俺。あ、この上行けるなこれ。階段見つけました。40分になったら一回落ちますね。あと6分ぐらいある。いやー走れないっていうのがねこれ。
The pain in my leg sent me blind for a few minutes as I struggled up the cliff path. I swallowed another handful of painkillers, and now I feel almost lucid. The island around me has retreated to a hazed distance, whilst the moon appears to have descended into my palm to guide me. I can see a thick black line of infection reaching for my heart from the waistband of my trousers. Through the fugue, it's all the world like the path I have cut from the lowlands towards the aerial.
何もない。いけません。戻ります。
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together. If only Donnelly had experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection. The stones in my stomach will weigh me down and ensure my descent is true and straight. I will break through the fog of these godforsaken pills and achieve clarity. All my functions are clogged, all my veins are choked. If my leg doesn't rot off before I reach the summit, it will be a miracle. There are 21 connections in the circuit diagram of the anti-lock brakes. There are 21 species of gull inhabiting these islands. It is 21 miles between the Sandford Junction and the turn-off for home. All these things cannot, will not be a coincidence. He was not drunk, Esther. He was not drunk at all. He had not drunk with Donnelly or spat Jakobsen back at the sea. He had not careered across the lost shores and terminal beaches of this nascent archipelago. He did not intend his bonnet to be crumpled like a spent tissue by the impact. His windscreen was not star-studded all over like a map of the heavens. His paintwork etched with circuit diagrams, strange fish to call the gulls away. The phosphorescence of the skid marks lighting the M5 all the way from Exeter to Damascus. I am the Ariel. In my passing, I will send news to each and every star. Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an Ariel, a beacon that they will not forget you. We have always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
なんととしか言いようがない。また言ってんのかおっさん。カムバックカムバック。 ちゃいましたね。なんと、ネタバレはちょっと難しいと思いますけど、あそこまで行くのちょっと長かったんであれですけど、なんか何だったんでしょう。謎は深まるばかりです。エンディングは飛ばせません。ということで、ご視聴ありがとうございました。ちょっとあんまりね、ちょっと英語はわからないというあれもありまして、ちょっと何なんでしょうっていう感じのゲームでしたけども、ちょっと景色とあと洞窟徘徊してまだ見れない、もしかしたらまだ見れてないところもあるかもしれません。ちょっと北米版のアカウントを持っている人だけですけども、やってみてはいかがでしょうか。では本日もご視聴ありがとうございました。またちょっとね、海外版の方の北米版の方もちょっとゲームをダウンロードして遊んではいきたいと思いますんで、よろしくお願いいたします。それではまたね。